Picture this. You are standing in the breathtaking remote beauty of the Scottish Highlands.
Oh, wow.
Right. The air is crisp, the sky is this brilliant, impossible blue, and you are about to embark on the trek of a lifetime.
Sounds pretty ideal so far.
It really does. So you're with four of your closest friends. There's Ryan, Alex, Ethan, Jake, and Sophie. And you're all experienced hikers.
Okay, so they aren't just amateurs.
Exactly. You have the best gear, you know exactly what you're doing, but you are heading toward a place called Black Peak.
Ah, yeah. That changes things.
It really does, because what begins as this, dream adventure into the wild is about to become a nightmare that none of them could possibly explain.
I mean, it goes so far beyond a normal hiking trip.
Way beyond. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at the shadow of Black Peak. And our mission today is to explore this not just as a terrifying adventure story, but really as a survival mountain mystery.
Yeah, because it really operates as a brilliant case study.
It does. Like, when you look closely at this narrative, you aren't just reading about a hike gone wrong. You are watching a real-time unraveling of human survival mechanics.
Right.
We're looking at what happens in the brain when the natural world turns hostile and, how ancient folklore often serves as a highly accurate, albeit disguised, survival manual.
I love that phrase, survival manual. Let's get right into that, actually, starting with the very first red flag, the warning.
Yeah, the warning in the village.
Exactly. So the group chooses Black Peak specifically because it's off the beaten path, right? Hidden deep in the Highlands.
Sure.
But when they get to the nearest village, they realize it's not just a secret local spot. The locals actively avoid it.
They won't even talk about it.
Right. When the hikers ask about the trail, people don't just say, oh, it's dangerous, don't go. They completely change the subject.
Which is very telling.
It is deeply evasive. And finally, this old man gives them this incredibly specific, eerie warning. He says, if you hear someone calling your name on the mountain, don't answer.
And of course they ignore it. Of course they do. The friends just laugh it off as, another local ghost story to spook the tourists.
Which is a fatal miscalculation of what folklore actually is.
How so?
Well, from an anthropological perspective, legends and ghost stories in isolated communities are rarely just for entertainment.
Okay.
They are codified survival data.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the mechanics of a taboo. When a community entirely avoids a subject, when they refuse to even name the mountain, they are performing a sociological quarantine.
A sociological quarantine.
Yeah. They have learned over generations that engaging with this specific environment leads to death.
Ignoring that generational knowledge is, it's like ignoring a strange chemical smell in a coal mine.
Exactly.
You don't need to be a chemist to know you should get out immediately, or it's like the terms and conditions at the start of a scary movie. You ignore them at your own peril. I just wonder, why is it human nature to assume we know better than the locals? We roll into these ancient, unforgiving places with our Gore-Tex jackets and our satellite phones, and we just assume modern gear overrides centuries of lived experience.
It's pure technological arrogance.
Yeah.
We equate modern equipment with mastery over nature. The hikers assume the old man is just superstitious because, well, he lacks their modern context.
Right, they think they're smarter.
Exactly. But superstition is often just pattern recognition without the scientific vocabulary.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
The locals don't need to know the biological or geological why of the mountain to know the practical what.
They just know the outcome.
Right. They know that people who go up Black Peak and respond to the voices do not come back. The ghost story is just the delivery mechanism for a strict behavioral rule.
Well, the mountain tests that arrogance almost immediately.
It sure does.
Because the trek starts perfectly. Blue skies, cool wind. But the psychological tension begins to creep in when Sophie suddenly stops on the trail.
Yeah, the whispering.
Yeah. She asks if anyone heard a whisper, someone saying her name.
So creepy.
The group completely dismisses it as the wind, but as evening approaches, they find an abandoned, rotting cabin.
Not exactly a comforting sight.
No, and it gets worse, because someone has painted a fresh warning on the wood in stark black paint. It says, "Turn back before dark."
And they still stay.
Ryan, of course, rolls his eyes, calls it pranksters, and they set up camp. Then 2 a.m. hits.
The witching hour.
Yeah. Jake wakes up to the sound of a woman screaming high up on the mountain, just yelling, "Help me, please."
See, this is where the environmental hostility starts dismantling their group cohesion.
Oh, definitely.
You're in an unfamiliar wilderness in the pitch black.
Mm.
The human brain, specifically the amygdala, is already on high alert, frantically scanning for threats in a sensory vacuum.
But I have to push back on the immediate assumption that something supernatural is happening here.
Okay, go ahead.
Because logically, Ryan's reaction in the moment makes complete sense.
He refused to help.
Yeah, he refuses to leave the tent or call for help, dismissing it as an animal. And if you've ever spent time in the deep woods, you know that foxes, mountain lions, and certain birds can sound exactly like a human being screaming in agony.
They really can. It's horrible.
It is blood-curdling. So how much of this is just isolation and darkness playing tricks on a highly stressed human brain?
That pushback is entirely valid. And it actually speaks to a well-documented evolutionary glitch called auditory pareidolia.
Auditory pareidolia.
Yeah. Our brains are heavily hardwired to find human patterns in random noise. It's a survival mechanism.
So we hear what we want or fear to hear.
Exactly. If a fox screams, your stressed auditory cortex instantly translates that raw acoustic data into a human cry.
Why does it do that, though?
Because a human in distress is a social emergency that requires your immediate attention to preserve the tribe. Your brain would rather give you a false positive and make you hypervigilant than miss a real cry for help.
Okay, so the brain is filling in the blanks. That makes sense.
Right.
But here's the detail that completely shatters that rational explanation. The screaming doesn't fade away.
Oh, the way it stops.
Yes, it doesn't trail off into a whimper or a gasp. It stops instantly, like someone flipped a switch.
Right, and that completely breaks the physics of a biological sound.
How so?
Well, animals have to draw breath. The sound of any living creature has a natural acoustic decay, especially when it's echoing down a vast mountain valley.
You would hear the echo fade.
Exactly. You would hear the reverberation. An instant mechanical cessation of sound implies deliberate control.
Oh, I don't like that.
It tells us the sound wasn't the natural byproduct of pain. It was a tool.
So it wasn't someone in distress?
No, it was a predator broadcasting a distress signal to see what prey would come running out of the dark.
Wow. That implies a terrifying level of intelligence. And the very next morning, that psychological warfare crosses the line into hard physical reality.
The footprints.
The footprints. They wake up to find huge tracks all around their tents, much larger than a human's.
And they were just circling.
Right, but the detail that really turns your stomach is that the prints appear out of nowhere in the mud and then just disappear into solid rock. There is no trail leading away.
Which is impossible.
Alex finally cracks. He says, okay, we need to leave. Right now. But Ryan refuses.
Of course he does.
He looks at the footprints, looks at the peak, and insists they're already halfway up.
That shift from an auditory trick to a physical threat fundamentally alters the survival calculus.
Yeah, they can't ignore it anymore.
They are no longer dealing with echoes in the dark. The footprints are tangible proof that something massive was circling them while they slept.
But they still don't leave.
Right. Yet, as you pointed out, Ryan anchors them to the mountain. This perfectly illustrates summit fever, or the sunk cost fallacy in extreme environments.
It blows my mind that they don't turn back right then and there. It feels like the summit fever completely overrides their basic survival instinct to run from a predator.
It does.
How does a goal become more important than staying alive?
It happens because the brain's reward circuitry essentially hijacks the threat response.
Really?
Yeah. When you invest massive amounts of physical energy, time, and ego into a climb, the brain begins releasing dopamine in anticipation of reaching the goal.
Oh, so they're chemically hooked on the summit.
Exactly. As they get closer to the peak, that dopamine loop starts shouting louder than the amygdala, which is flashing red warning signs about the footprints.
That's fascinating. And terrifying.
Furthermore, in high-stress survival situations, group dynamics often become dangerously skewed. Groups tend to defer to the most confident member, even if that confidence is completely irrational.
And Ryan is definitely the most confident.
Right. For Ryan, turning back means admitting defeat, and worse, admitting that his arrogance was wrong and the terror is real.
That stubbornness pushes them past the point of no return, and the environment responds almost immediately.
The fog.
A thick, unnatural fog rolls in, dropping visibility to almost zero. The GPS completely fails. Their phones lose all signal.
Sensory deprivation.
Total sensory deprivation. They realize they are walking in circles when they pass the exact same dead tree for the third time.
Which is a classic sign of being completely disoriented.
And then, out of the mist, a soft, familiar voice emerges. It's Ryan's mother.
Calling to him.
Yeah, she says, Ryan, come here. But his mother died years ago.
Such a brutal tactic.
Ryan starts walking like a zombie into the fog until Alex physically tackles him. And the moment he does, The voice changes. It becomes incredibly angry, guttural. The fog itself feels like it is alive and watching them.
Notice the progression of the tactics here. This is the complete weaponization of the environment.
Weaponization, yeah.
The fog causes profound sensory deprivation. They lose their sight, their navigational tools, and their spatial awareness. In that vacuum, the mountain deploys an incredibly precise psychological attack.
It's like an anglerfish in the deep, dark ocean, but infinitely more sinister.
Well, that's a good comparison.
An anglerfish just uses a generic glowing light to draw in a fish. This mountain uses bespoke psychological tailoring.
Bespoke tailoring, exactly.
It finds the exact frequency of your deepest emotional vulnerability, in this case, a dead parent. And it uses it as the glowing lure to draw you out of the safety of the group and into the jaws of a predator.
The anglerfish analogy highlights the predatory efficiency perfectly. A predator does not want to fight a group of 5 fit young hikers.
No, that's too much work.
Right. A group is dangerous, they can defend each other. The entity uses the mother's voice to bypass their physical defenses by attacking their emotional core.
So manipulative.
Neurologically, grief is a primal emotion that operates in the deeper, older parts of the brain. When Ryan hears his mother, that emotional surge completely short-circuits his prefrontal cortex.
Which is the logical part, right?
Yes, the logical decision-making center that knows his mother is dead. The creature is actively manipulating his brain chemistry to separate him from the herd.
Wow. While seeking shelter from this living fog, the group stumbles blindly into a dark cave.
Out of the frying pan.
Right into the fire. What they find inside completely rewrites the history of the mountain. The walls are covered in hundreds of ancient carvings.
The petroglyphs.
Yeah. And the most terrifying one is a prophetic drawing. It shows 5 people climbing a mountain, but only 4 coming back down.
And there are 5 of them. Nobody in the group speaks because, well, there are exactly 5 of them standing there in the dark.
Think about the implications of that discovery. Up until this point, you could almost try to rationalize the events as extreme bad luck or a bizarre sequence of natural phenomena.
Right, you could try.
But the carvings prove this is a deeply established cyclical pattern of hunting. This entity has a methodology, and it has been executing it for centuries.
But this raises a chilling logistical question for me.
What's that?
If this creature consumes people who survived to carve the warning,
Oh, that is the question.
did previous victims, maybe the 4 out of 5 who made it down in a previous generation, somehow leave this behind in their final moment?
Perhaps. Or, and this thought really creeps me out, is the cave itself a gruesome trophy room curated by the creature?
Both theories are terrifying, but they point to completely different kinds of horror.
So?
If it's a warning from survivors, it carries the heavy implication of survivors' guilt. Escaping means someone had to be sacrificed, which perfectly aligns with the drawing.
Right.
But if we assume it is a trophy room, it reveals a predator with sadistic intelligence.
Sadistic intelligence.
Yes. It means the creature deeply understands human fear. It isn't just killing for food. It's actively curating an environment designed to inflict maximum psychological terror.
Tenderizing its prey with dread.
Exactly. Tenderizing them with dread before it strikes. And given the absolute cruelty of what happens next, that high-level sadistic intelligence seems undeniable.
The cruelty is unmatched, really. The climax of the psychological torture happens that very night.
When Sophie disappears.
Yes. Around midnight, the group wakes up, and Sophie has vanished from her sleeping bag. Just gone.
No sound.
No sound at all. All that's left is her flashlight and these desperate, deep scratches gouged into the stone wall, like she was dragged away fighting.
Awful.
Near dawn, they find a hidden chamber deeper in the cave system. It has a stone altar and centuries-old journals left by long-dead explorers.
A lore dump, essentially.
Yeah, the journals spell out the horrific truth. An ancient creature lives inside the mountain. It's a mimic. It consumes people and then copies their voices, their faces, and their memories to lure the next group.
And the timing of them reading that.
Unbelievable timing, because as they're reading this, a scream echoes through the cave, and Sophie appears at the entrance.
But the tension relies entirely on the fact that the viewer and the hikers know it isn't her.
Exactly. She is standing there smiling, but the smile is stretched just a little too wide across her face.
So unsettling.
Her eyes are completely black, devoid of any white. And when she speaks, it's this distorted, layered voice of multiple people talking at once saying, "Guys, come with me." It is visceral.
What you're describing is the ultimate neurological manifestation of the uncanny valley.
The uncanny valley.
Yeah, we talked about auditory pareidolia earlier, but this is the visual equivalent breaking down.
How does that work?
The uncanny valley is a phenomenon where something looks almost exactly human but slightly off, and it triggers a profound, revulsive fear response.
Revulsive is the right word.
Mechanically, our brains have specialized neural pathways, specifically the fusiform face area, solely dedicated to facial recognition.
Okay.
When a face is 90% human, those pathways fire, recognizing a peer. But the 10% that is off, the stretched smile, the black eyes, triggers the amygdala's severe threat response.
So it's a conflict in the brain.
It's a neurological glitch where empathy and terror collide.
It's your brain screaming at you that the thing wearing your friend's face is a monster.
Precisely. And this ties back to the mountain folklore we discussed at the start.
Right, the warning.
Across global cultures, you see myths of mimic predators. The Wendigo in North America, the skinwalkers, the Yamauba in Japan.
They all have that mimicking trait.
Isolated communities, universally developed myths about creatures that wear the faces of loved ones or mimic their voices. These myths likely evolved as extreme deterrents to enforce curfews and keep people from wandering into the woods alone.
But here, the horror is that the myth is physical.
Yeah. The mimic has consumed so many people that it can't even separate their voices anymore. They're all trapped inside its vocal cords, speaking in unison.
God, that visual is just, it sticks with you. And the sheer adrenaline of the escape that follows is relentless.
These have to run.
The ground is literally shaking. The friends bolt, running for their lives down the mountain. And behind them, echoing through the dark cave and out into the fog, is a cacophony of dozens of voices.
All the previous victims?
Parents, dead relatives, childhood friends, all begging the surviving hikers to stop, pleading with them to turn around. Can you imagine the sheer willpower it takes to keep running when the voice of your own dead mother is screaming behind you, begging you to help her?
Surviving that requires a complete forced detachment from your own empathy.
You have to just shut it off.
To keep running, they have to actively suppress everything that makes them human.
Yeah.
Their love, their grief, their instinct to protect the weak.
So the creature is weaponizing their humanity against them.
Absolutely. And suddenly the rule from the very beginning, the old man's warning in the village, finally makes absolute sense.
If you hear someone calling your name, don't answer.
Exactly. If you engage with your empathy, if you stop to help, you are lost.
Well, they don't stop. They run until their lungs burn, and they make it.
All four of them.
Ryan, Alex, Ethan, and Jade reach the base of the mountain just as the sun rises. Alive, but utterly traumatized.
I can't even imagine.
The police search Black Peak for weeks, but they find absolutely no trace of Sophie, no evidence of a struggle.
Nothing.
The survivors never speak of it again. They go back to their lives. They try to move on.
But they can't.
No. Exactly 1 year later, Ryan's phone buzzes. He receives a text from an unknown number. It's a photograph of Black Peak, and the metadata shows it was taken that exact same day. Standing at the snowy summit is Sophie.
Sterling.
She is in the same clothes, smiling that impossibly wide smile, with completely black eyes. The message beneath the photo says, "I'm still waiting for you."
That is horrifying.
And then an endless stream of messages follows. "Come back to the mountain. Come back to the mountain."
It is a devastating final psychological blow, primarily because it shatters the established rules of the folklore.
What do you mean?
Throughout history, legendary monsters are usually bound by geography. A sea monster stays in the sea, a mountain spirit stays on the mountain.
Right, you just have to get away from the place.
The survivors assumed that by returning to civilization, they had won. They crossed the threshold into safety.
But the photo completely shatters that illusion of safety. If Sophie never left the mountain, who took the picture?
Exactly.
How does it have a phone?
That is the true terror of this evolution. This entity isn't just a mindless beast bound by ancient rules. It is highly intelligent, highly adaptable, and it understands modern technology.
So it's basically a supernatural phishing scam.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
By sending those texts, the creature is extending its hunting ground into their pockets.
In their pockets. Wow.
The psychological torture didn't end when they left the Highlands. The predator just adapted its lure for the digital age.
It's absolutely chilling, knowing that this ancient face-stealing thing on top of a mountain has your cell phone number.
You'd never feel safe.
Every time your phone buzzes, every unknown number that pops up on your screen, you would never sleep soundly again.
Never.
You know, The Shadow of Black Peak really stands as an incredible fusion of folklore, psychological terror, and the harsh realities of survival.
It really does.
It takes the genuine dangers of wilderness exploration like destination fever, getting lost in sensory deprivation and acoustic illusions, and wraps them around a predator that preys exclusively on our deepest emotional vulnerabilities.
It serves as a powerful reminder that our own brains and our